That'll be air, the set of sun.
Where the place?
Upon the heath.
There to meet with Macbeth.
I am revenge, sent from the infernal kingdom, accompanied by rape and murder here.
Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of Shakesplaining, a show where Kimberly and I dissect complex Shakespearean works and discuss interesting topics in a language we can all understand. Now to you, Kim.
Yes, I'm so pumped up for this. Shakespeare for entertainment, who would have thought? Today we'll be talking about Shakespeare's most powerful female villains, Lady Macbeth from Macbeth and Tamora from Titus Andronicus. Honestly, scary woman.
But somehow a little empowering. I mean, I was almost a little sympathetic towards the characters in the end.
Really? Okay, we'll debate about this later.
Fine. So the way today's episode will be broken down is we'll very quickly introduce both these characters and their respective roles in the plays. We'll then explore why these women are powerful and the various mechanisms they use to obtain this power, specifically in context of their gender.
Part of that would entail how these women use their sexuality and their attitude towards motherhood. So let's get to it. Tamora was the queen of the Goths and is the mother of 3 sons, Alberus, Chiron, and Demetrius. When the Goths are captured by the Romans, Titus executes Alberus, her first son. This enrages Tamora as she vows to take revenge from Titus. She orchestrates a plan where she first charms the young new King Saturninus with her exotic beauty, and then rises to become the queen of the Rome. She then persuades her son, Chiron and Demetrius, to rape Lavinia, Titus's only daughter, and kills Bassianus, and then proceeds to execute Titus's son for all of her doings. With this, she becomes embodiment of revenge and dies after eating her children.
Yeah, that happened. Our other character is Lady Macbeth from the play Macbeth. This play revolves around a general called Macbeth. In the beginning of the play, 3 witches tell Macbeth that he will become the King of Scotland. His wife, Lady Macbeth, hears about this and starts plotting the murder of the current King Duncan to ensure her husband's ascent to the throne. She manipulates her husband, plays on his insecurities, and entrances him to commit the murder. Later in the play, we see that she is driven to madness by her guilt as she desperately tries to wash away invisible bloodstains from her hands, and eventually she dies.
Oh man, what does Shakespeare have against driving women into madness?
Okay, let's get to it. First of all, let's establish a working definition of power. Power in this context is the opportunity to take action and lead others to an outcome that is desirable to oneself.
And this is exactly what we see these women do. One evident commonality between both of them is their ability to manipulate the men around them. Both women hold such a strong, powerful influence over the men around them, and this often makes the 2 women the central focus of the play's action. Take Lady Macbeth, for example. When she reads the letter from Macbeth explaining his encounter with the witches who predicted he would become the king, Lady Macbeth is ecstatic. She knew exactly what needs to be done in order to make the prophecy come true. Moreover, she immediately recognizes that her husband's conscience might prevent him from committing the murder. When we analyze the way she persuades Macbeth to kill Duncan, we see Lady Macbeth emerge as a calculative master manipulator.
Art thou afeard to be the same in thine own act and valour as thou art in desire? Wouldst thou have that which thou esteems the ornament of life, and live a coward in thine own esteem, letting I dare not wait upon I would, like the poor cat of the adage?
Prithee, peace. I dare do all that may become a man. Who dares do more is none.
When you durst do it, then you were a man. And to be more than what you were, you would be so much more of a man.
Damn, that was a smart move. Okay, to just break down what happened, Macbeth was having second thoughts. He says he doesn't want to proceed further in this business. The business being murdering the king of your land. But Lady Macbeth takes Macbeth's kindness and conscience and turns it into an issue about his manhood and bravery. She argues that when Macbeth first agreed to kill Duncan, he was masculine. But by questioning it now, he has lost his manhood. She further bullies and ridicules him by commenting on his physical appearance as pale and green, which signifies something weak and sickly. She even goes on to call him a coward and compares him to a timid cat, which, if you think about it, is really ironic because Macbeth is revered as a brave general by everyone. Duncan even calls him valiant and noble in Scene 1. This measured use of metaphors and contentious language by Lady Macbeth induces anxiety in Macbeth. She notoriously makes the murder of Duncan a test of Macbeth's virility and manhood. She creates a scenario where Macbeth now feels the need to obtain validation by proving his masculinity to his wife, and he can only do that by murdering King Duncan, which is exactly what Lady Macbeth wants.
Wow, now that is manipulation at its finest. You know what? I see that and I raise you Tamora and her deceptive nature. The way Tamora first entrances Saturninus, becomes the queen of Rome, and controls him at her whim. Now that is manipulation.
I agree. And don't forget the way she motivates her sons to kill Bassianus and rape Lavinia.
How could I? Let's actually watch the scene.
And had you not, my wondrous fortune come, this vengeance on me had they executed. Revenge it, as you love your mother's life, or be ye not henceforth called my children.
This is a witness that I am thy son. And this for me, Stockholm to show my strength.
This scene shows us how Tamora twists her maternal anger and grief and uses it to manipulate Chiron and Demetrius. Even though it was Aaron who initially convinced both of them to rape Lavinia, Tamora further fuels their villainy by motivating them to kill Bassianus for her. The fact that she mentions she would denounce them as children if they don't commit the murder for her shows how she starts emotionally blackmailing her own children. Like Lady Macbeth, Tamora also induces anxiety in her sons. If Chiron and Demetrius start second-guessing their actions or show any signs of restraint, they will now be letting down their mother. So Tamora essentially creates a situation where her sons are encouraged to commit evil deeds in order to obtain validation and motherly love and approval. She uses the men around her to fulfill her own thirst for vengeance.
And you know what else is interesting, Kim? The fact that these women are fully aware of their positions in their respective patriarchal societies, and they understand how to work around it to obtain power. Both Lady Macbeth and Tamora are able to take leadership roles in their own stories. In a patriarchal society where feminine characters are associated with weaknesses and women's roles are generally limited to domestic household duties, these women, by influencing and controlling the men around them, are able to accomplish their goals. That is why I was earlier defending them. In Shakespeare, men generally derive their power from the strength that arises from their physical body. They use this power to win battles and wars. The few women that are actually able to extract power, like Lady Macbeth and Tamora, they do it through their cerebral capacity and their language. And they both recognize this capability. Let's see this in the context of Lady Macbeth.
Thou wouldst be great, art not without ambition, but without the illness should attend it. What thou wouldst highly, that wouldst thou holily. Wouldst not play false, and yet wouldst strongly win. Thou'dst have great larms, that which cries, thus thou must do if thou have it, and that which rather thou dost fear to do, than wishest should be undone. Hie thee hither, that I may pour my spirits in thine ear, and chastise with the valour of my tongue all that impedes thee from the golden round, which fate and metaphysical aid doth seem to have thee crowned withal.
As soon as she receives the letter from Macbeth, Lady Macbeth is set on taking the role of the aggressor in Duncan's murder, because she is already prepared to convince her husband to accept what the witches had said his fate was. Note how she used the word valor to describe her tongue. The word means courage or bravery and is typically used in the physical context of wars and battles. By saying this, Lady Macbeth re-emphasizes how her strength is derived from her language and her ability to pour thoughts into Macbeth's mind and manipulate him. Her deceptive nature is further highlighted when she instructs him to look like a flower but be the serpent underneath it that kills Duncan. She even embodies this philosophy as she is seen to be hospitable and friendly to Duncan and his party, yet carries foul in her thoughts and actions. She even pretends to faint upon the news of Duncan's death to act fragile and feminine in front of outsiders.
We see this acknowledgement of power and deceptive ability even in Tamora's case.
Why should you fear? Is not your city strong?
Aye, but
the citizens favor Lucius and will revolt from me to succor him.
King, be thy thoughts imperious like thy name. Is the sun dimmed that gnats do fly in it? Then cheer thy spirit, for know thou, Emperor, I will enchant the old Andronicus with words more sweet and yet more dangerous than bait to fish or honey stalks to sheep.
But he will not entreat his son for us.
If Tamora entreat him, then he will.
This is probably one of the most famous scenes depicting Tamora's ability to manipulate. When Titus shoots arrows at Saturninus' castle, we see Saturninus getting extremely frustrated and angry. However, a calculative Tamora entreats her husband, the Emperor of Rome, to first allow her to speak with Titus. Throughout the scene, Tamora describes herself as high-witted and proclaims that this intelligence would give her the ability to smooth and fill Titus's aged ears and cause him to obey her tongue. We see that the language used by Tamora to describe her skill is very strikingly similar to the phrases used by Lady Macbeth. The word obey shows Tamora's confidence in her own speech and her manipulative capacity. It's ironic that while talking to Saturninus and saying that she will manipulate Titus, Tamora is simultaneously deceiving and controlling her own husband rather easily. This scene clearly solidifies Tamora's strength and her powerful personality as she's able to obtain control in the male-dominated Roman society.
Up until now, Lady Macbeth and Tamora uses her manipulative ability to obtain power. Now, we are going to discuss their power in relations to gender and motherhood. Both these women have somewhat similar but also unique attitudes toward their gender and motherhood.
Exactly. When it comes to Lady Macbeth, we see that she has very rigid views of gender. She equates femininity with weakness and masculinity with strength. This can be seen in the scene.
And shalt be what thou art promised. Yet do I fear thy nature. It is too full of the milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way.
We see that Lady Macbeth, while doubting Macbeth's capabilities, uses the word milk to describe his kindness. This is interesting because women are generally the ones that contain or have milk to feed their newborn. So she basically says having kindness of any sort is feminine and weak, and reverses the gender roles by associating Macbeth with these characteristics. Essentially, she is indicating that Macbeth has too much femininity to commit a murder.
She proceeds to promote these views through one of the most famous soliloquies.
Come, you spirits, that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here, and fill me from the crown to the toe, top full of direst cruelty.
Wow, that was heavy.
I know! Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. We see that Lady Macbeth rejects her gender completely in her plea to the evil spirits to unsex her or literally get rid of her femininity. She assumes this would give her the power to kill someone and take a life away, as opposed to the inherent power women have of giving birth and creating a new life. It can be inferred that Lady Macbeth is implying that women cannot be powerful, and in order to obtain that power, she purposefully rejects everything feminine about her, including motherhood.
Come to my woman's breasts and take my milk for gall. You murdering ministers. Wherever in your sightless substances you wait on nature's mischief. Come, thick night, and pour thee in the dunnest smoke of hell, that my keen knife see not the wound it makes, nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark, to cry hold. I've given suck, and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from its boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn.
Through these scenes, we see how Lady Macbeth doesn't display any stereotypical traits of a mother. Even though we don't see Lady Macbeth's children, we know that she is a mother because she says she has given suck. However, she doesn't display any motherly nature at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite. In order to convince Macbeth to kill Duncan and prove a point, Lady Macbeth paints a horrific picture and says that she would have bashed the brains of her infant and killed it if Macbeth had asked her to do so. Her description of this extremely violent image of a mother killing her own baby comes as a shock since it goes against the stereotype of a loving and caring mother. She completely detaches herself from the traditional model and in order to seize a masculine power to further Macbeth's political goals.
This is further re-emphasized in the scene where she asks the spirits to replace the milk in her breasts with bitter acid. This actually alludes to the scene where she says Macbeth has milk of kindness. Lady Macbeth here is asking the spirits to take that milk, which signifies kindness, out of her breasts and fill it instead with something so poisonous it could kill an infant. By replacing the milk with poison, Lady Macbeth negates providing nourishment and being a source of life, and instead demands to become a weapon that kills.
Yeah, and this is where our other character, Tamora, is different from Lady Macbeth. For Tamora's motherhood is what drives her ascent to power and turns her into a malicious, vengeful character. But later in the play, she also starts detaching herself from motherhood to uphold her existing power.
Gracious conqueror, victorious Titus, rue the tears I shed, the mother's tears and passion for her son. No! If thy sons were ever dear to thee, oh, think my son to be as dear to me.
The Empress sends it thee, thy stamp, thy seal, and bids thee christen it with thy dagger's point.
In the beginning of the play, Tamora is seen to be a very loving mother. She kneels, cries, and begs for her son Alarbus's life, and when she is unsuccessful at saving him, she vows to massacre Titus and his entire family. Her desire for revenge, which then dictates her manipulative schemes, stems from the fact that she was a loving mother. It's clear that maternalism is what gives Tamora her drive for revenge, and the connection between femininity and vengeance is re-emphasized when she literally becomes the deity of revenge in Act 5.
However, this motherly nature doesn't last forever, Sunakshi. Later in the play, Tamora's motherly nature seems to change by 180 degrees. When she gives birth to a child whose father is Aaron, Tamora promptly rejects it and orders Aaron to kill it. This is a stark contrast to her pleading for her son's life in the beginning of the play. She doesn't hesitate to get rid of this symbol of her affair because the illicit son now presents a threat to the powerful position she has established for herself. And this change of attitude is a complete redirection of her maternal urge. Her priority now is maintaining her position as the Empress of Rome to ensure the massacre of Titus and his family. Like Lady Macbeth, Tamora now becomes a prominent female character that rejects her motherly duties for personal gain.
Tamora disassociates herself from feminine qualities in a manner that is similar to Lady Macbeth. Lady Macbeth relates characteristics like remorse, conscience, and mercy with femininity and weakness. Tamora seems to disregard these characteristics as well.
So should I rob my sweet sons of their fee?
No. Let them satisfy their lust on me.
Not brave! No womanhood!
In this scene, Lavinia cries and pleads to Tamora and asks her to show sympathy and mercy as a fellow woman. However, Tamora feels none of this. As Lavinia proclaims, Tamora only bears a woman's face but has rid herself of all feminine compassion in exchange for masculine indifference and the power that comes with it.
You know what, Sunakshi? I actually see your point now. Even though these women committed vile, horrific crimes, you have to respect their rise to power. In a male-dominated Rome, Tamora struggles as an outsider and as a woman. Similarly, Lady Macbeth struggles as a domesticated, powerful woman. Both Tamora and Lady Macbeth represent the capacity of women to be cunning and manipulative to achieve their personal goals and desires, while simultaneously working within and challenging the patriarchal climate.
Absolutely, Kim. I could not agree more. And everyone, with that, we've reached the end of our first episode for Shakesplaining. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we really hope you enjoyed this video. Catch you next week. Till then, spear on.